Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest from Fairfield County Job and Family Services, the adult elderly care, is Mindy VanBibber and Janet Stout. How you doing?
Good.
Doing okay? Doing all right?
Thank you for having us.
Oh, we're glad you're here. It's
Always a pleasure to be on your show, Mike.
always good to have you guys here. The Elder Abuse Month is June.
Correct.
And it's purple, is that correct?
That's
Is
correct.
that
June 15th is Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and that's a World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, so this is being observed all over the world. What we're asking is that everyone wear purple that day, which is the color of elder abuse awareness. We're also asking if you want to take a photo of yourself wearing your purple or with your group, that you can send it to wearpurple@fcjfs.org, and we can share that on our social media.
Fantastic. Now, is this something that has been around a while, or is this just something that has started recently? Or?
Well, from my research, I was able to see that it was launched in 2006, so about 11 years, and it was launched by the International Network for Prevention of Elder Abuse and the World Health Organization.
People talk about elder abuse and what happens. Talk a little bit about what do you guys do?
Well, elder abuse exists more frequently than people are really aware, and that's why we're trying to bring awareness to this situation. About 1 in 10 of Americans over the age of 60 suffer elder abuse of some sort.
1 in 10? Wow.
And unfortunately, only about 1 in 14 cases are reported to Adult Protective Services.
Why? I mean, just people they're afraid or
There's
embarrassed?
a lot of different
Okay.
reasons, yeah.
There's several reasons. The main one being, there's a lot of fear. There's fear of some sort of retaliation from the perpetrator if they're, quote, told on. There is the elder fear of getting the perpetrator in trouble, because most of the time it's a family member. What we're seeing is a lot of adult children and adult grandchildren who are the perpetrators in these cases. And so the elder feels like they don't want to get that person in trouble. It's their family. The other reason that we are believing is because the elder might be embarrassed. They might be embarrassed that they can't take care of themselves the way that they used to. They might be embarrassed that they've been taken advantage of. So.
You guys work with a lot of different agencies too, not just JFS.
We do. We work with a lot of community partners, and in Fairfield County, that collaboration works very well. We have an elder abuse interdisciplinary team, and that consists of representatives from financial institutions, from law enforcement, prosecutor's office. We have members from Meals on Wheels and different service organizations like that. And we all work together because we recognize the same situations. Elders come in contact with different businesses, or they receive different services. So we might become aware of someone who receives Meals on Wheels each day who is in need of some additional assistance, so that might be reported to Adult Protective Services.
So if an elder reports it, you should listen. People could say, oh, well, she or he doesn't know what's going on, but more than likely there's something there.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot for them to open up and report themselves. So.
Now, I know all the different things that you've done, but what are some things that you don't do?
Some of the things that we get a lot of questions about are, do we evaluate elderly people and say, or do we have the authority to say, are they competent or are they incompetent? And that's something that we're not licensed to do. That has to be done by a physician, so we're not able to do that. We also don't force adults to work with us or receive our services. They do have a choice, and we respect that choice. They can refuse services from us. The other thing is that we don't investigate any maltreatment that has occurred in a facility. So for example, if we get a report about some physical abuse, say, of a resident who resides in a nursing home, we don't investigate those, but we do send them to the Ohio Department of Health. That's their jurisdiction.
People always talk about, well, I know somebody up the street that, I know they're being abused, but I don't want to get involved in this. Can this be done anonymously? Or?
Yes, very definitely. We encourage people to report any suspicions or anything that you think might be out of the ordinary. Even if you don't have all the details of the situation, but you think someone might be being harmed in some way, please report it. And the way to do that is to call Fairfield County Job and Family Services at 740-652-7887. And that can be done anonymously. If you want to give your name, that's fine, in case we need to get back with you to get some additional details after the report is made. But if you want to report anonymously, that's perfectly fine too. And even if you do give your name, we are prohibited by law from revealing that to anyone.
Can elders be forced out of their home? Is that, I mean,
That's not something that we would typically do. We can't force an elder out of their home into a nursing home. The other important thing in regards to that is APS can't take guardianship of an elder either. We can help facilitate a guardianship. We can help a family member obtain that by letting them know kind of what the steps are. But we, as the APS department, cannot take guardianship over someone. We try, our ultimate goal is to keep the elders in their home as long as safely possible, and help them retain their independence. So our goal is never to remove someone from their home, and there's lots of services that we can connect them to and put in place to avoid that.
trainings? We've talked a little bit about what, is there seminars, websites, or videos? People, do you have trainings for them?
We are available to do trainings. We've done all kinds. We've done some mandated reporter trainings, which is, letting those who are mandated know that they are mandated, and the ORC code associated with that and how to report. We've done all kinds of presentations. Somebody contacts us and says, hey, we're having this meeting and we have about 15 minutes and we want to just kind of hear an overview of what you do. And so we can do a 15-minute, we can do an hour, we can do 3 hours. I mean, we can tailor it to what anyone needs.
And we love to do that. We love to get the word out, just to let people know what it is that APS does, and also what we don't do. A lot of people have some misperceptions of APS. One of the first questions that is asked of me when I go to do an investigation is, who turned me in? Because there's a lot of fear that that's the purpose of APS, that we go in to take someone out of their home and put them in a nursing home. So we like to dispel those thoughts and perceptions and just let them know that we're here to help. We do investigate the abuse and neglect, and we put measures in place to assure the safety of the senior. But it's not our purpose to try to make them do something they don't want to do or to leave their home.
Now, you two have been doing this quite a few years now. Any trends or things that you've seen that when you first started until now?
When I first started in APS, self-neglect was by far the most reported concern. It's just someone who is over the age of 60 and they've lost some of their abilities. Maybe they're impaired by a physical condition and they're no longer able to take care of themselves. And we still see that quite a bit. But over the years, we've gradually seen an increase now in financial exploitation. And
By family members? Or?
Typically by a family member, yes. About, what would you say, about 80 to 85% of the time at least, the perpetrator is an adult child or a grandchild. And
No, I'm going to take a guess and say it's related to
the
drugs.
cause of that.
Okay.
Yeah, the opioid epidemic. It just affects all aspects of our community, including our senior citizens.
So, the world that you live in, is that something that banks can say, well, hey, boy, he's taken $5,000 out in the last 2 weeks? I mean, is that something those institutions are involved with also, or?
We do get a lot of reports from financial institutions that they know the elder because they've come in, for every week for so many years, and they start to notice, well, they're taking out a lot of money and big chunks of money. They may notice that somebody else who they haven't seen before is now coming in with them and maybe taking that money. We do get a lot of reports from family members as well, sometimes maybe that aren't in the area that have noticed, mom doesn't have this much money anymore, and I think it might, have something to do with this. But the opiate epidemic itself, it reaches farther, than we all can imagine. A lot of the things that we're seeing as well compared to CPS is the adult children and the adult grandchildren. living in the home with the elder, but then those people also have children. And so if you have an addict who is living in the home who has children, who has maybe had them removed, and now our elder is in care or caring for those children, which, you know, puts another burden on them as well. And so a lot of it is, you know, taking money, taking belongings to sell, things like that is what we're seeing.
And the population, I mean, I'll be 61, the population is growing rapidly. I mean, is there any I mean, what's down the road for protection for elderlies?
I'm a member of the baby boomer generation too, so it is increasing rapidly. And do you have statistics on the population increase over the next coming years?
Yes, I do. So I have a little chart here, which I have provided Mike as well. It's the population 65 and older is projected to be about 83.7 million. Which is almost double the year it was in 2012, and all of this is expected about 2030 to 2050. That's how much of the population is going to be in that age range, 60 and over.
We'll see if we get that chart up on the. So again, when you guys started, did you envision this, or were you thinking more, well, it's not going to get like this? What was the biggest thing you dealt with when you first started? Maybe Janet more, because you've been doing it a lot longer.
Right. It was mostly self-neglect, and it was basically a matter of matching people up with services that might help them to stay in their home. And we still do that, but now we're dealing with cases of physical abuse. The financial exploitation is a big part. And along with the exploitation goes coercive control and intimidation and things like that are emotionally abusive to the older person as well.
I know you can't divulge names and all that, but maybe a couple stories or a couple examples of what people have gone through that you guys have been involved with.
Well, I've worked with a client, and I'll call her Judy. She is in her 80s, and she had a family member, a great grandchild living with her temporarily, and he did have an issue with substance abuse, as we had discussed earlier. And when people are on drugs, they become very erratic sometimes. And his behavior started to change. He became more emotionally abusive, more aggressive, to the point where he eventually assaulted her. And I can't comprehend a great-grandchild assaulting an 87-year-old woman, but that's what happened. She became fearful to live in her own home because of that. Additionally, he stole from her, took some checks and forged them, which put her in a financial bind. And I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother as well, and I understand her heart. She sees him as her grandchild, and rightly so. And she does admit that these incidents happen, but she minimizes that in her mind. And she wants him to come back to her house to have a good home-cooked meal, because no one cooks a meal like Grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm working with her to help her recognize the risk. And until her grandson gets the help that he needs, unfortunately, she's still at risk.
I want to jump back to training for a second. Do you actually talk with the elderly? I mean, at Olivedale, do you go to Olivedale and talk to the people, or do you go out? And I know having people come in, but do you get out to those places?
Actually, I think we go out more than when we have people come in, honestly. We all enjoy, you know, Janet and I primarily lead those trainings, and we really enjoy getting out there and just getting the word out, because this is on the rise. It's not going to stop. It's going to get worse. And the sad thing is there's so many people that may not even know that we're here, let alone how to report to us or what to look for. And so we're always very willing to go pretty much anywhere and, you know, talk with people and educate them in an effort to bring more awareness to this.
Oh, absolutely. When you first go in and investigate, is everybody there, or is it the senior citizen and then grandchildren, or are they by themselves, I guess?
Yeah, it depends on the situation. Typically, we like to make an unannounced visit the first time, because that way we can see how things really are. If you call ahead and say, I'm coming to see
Okay.
you in 3 days, the situation may change because they anticipate that. But we like to meet individually with the adult person first, the elder that the report is about, explain to them exactly what was reported, and then ask them to explain their side of what happened, see if there are any services that they might need. In the course of that investigation, though, we believe strongly in self-determination. We're not working with children who don't have the ability or the right to make decisions on their own behalf. We're working with, for the most part, competent adults. So we respect that. We can only do what they'll allow
Sure.
us to do. So we let them call the shots. We say, how can we work with you to remedy the situation? If they tell us to get lost, then we have to
Sure.
respect
We have
that.
to respect
But for the most part, they're open to any services that they might be eligible for. They want to resolve the situation as much as we do.
I want to talk just a little bit, there's no funding in general, nothing specific, but just funding in general. I think the last time, I think Dave Henwood was here, said that Children Protective Services is 50th in 50 states.
Mhm.
How are funding, talk a little bit about funding and those things.
So Child Protective and Adult Protective Services are all together under Protective Services, which is under JFS. We are 50th in the state for funding. Even if we had a significant amount of funds added to that, it wouldn't bring us up much higher. So we're 50th in the 50 states. Yet we cover, a large area. We have a large county. We have a lot of cities. We have the opiate epidemic. We have all these factors that are contributing to the growing number of cases that we're seeing. So our hope is that we will continue to be supported by our community, and like we have been in the past. So.
Are there, let's talk about, we talked a little bit about Fairfield County. This isn't unique to Fairfield County. This is happening all over the United States, and then just maybe how it's mushroomed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's a problem, just like the opiate epidemic, just like elder abuse, child abuse, all of these things. I don't think people realize really the severity of it because they're not exposed to it. They don't see it necessarily.
Hasn't happened to me yet, so.
Right, one of those
Right.
things like that would never happen to me or my neighbor, or I've never seen that. But when you're in the job doing it every day, you can't imagine. You can't even look at the world, without that in your mind. So.
And your staff is pretty small. You two and.
Yeah, I'm the supervisor, and then we have 3 caseworkers, which actually we're very fortunate to have. There's a lot of other counties in Ohio who may have 1 caseworker or may have a part-time APS worker who part-time does CPS work as well. So, but then there are other counties too that are much larger. I believe there's one county that has close to 40 APS caseworkers.
40?
40. When I
Much
heard
bigger
that, I was,
community.
oh my goodness. So yeah, it's diverse, but for the most part, most counties are struggling, just like every county all over the United States.
Ever get together and work with other counties?
We do. There's an organization called OCAPS, Ohio Coalition of Adult Protective Services, and they work for advocacy and different aspects of adult protective services. So it's a collaboration of all the different counties in Ohio.
That's unique. I still can't believe we're 50th in funding.
I know.
So when you talk to legislators, or what's the response? I mean, is it, well, we're doing what we can? Or?
They're becoming more aware, just as the general population is becoming more aware of the need. Last year, Ohio did designate $10 million for adult protective services across the state, and that was used for different purposes. It was issued through grants to the different counties, and part of that money was also used to develop a statewide data collection system and a database so that we're all consistent in collecting the information. And that's going to be a huge help to us when that's all in place.
We're excited for that to come about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Now, and that's statewide? That's,
Yes, that'll be a statewide database.
so if charges are filed, And I'm just, if charges are filed, is it usually followed through, or is it more they've talked their way out of it, or?
Kind of depends on the offense, I think. We've seen it both ways. We've seen, where, and I think the biggest problem that I've seen in the past anyway is that, the elder doesn't want to pursue charges. They don't want to testify. They don't want to, because they don't want that perpetrator to get in trouble. And so that kind of, that hinders the legal process a little bit. So, our hope is maybe in the future seeing a little bit more evidence-based prosecutions, so where the elder doesn't have to be in that situation.
And there are cases too where the person may have dementia or some cognitive impairment that prevents them from being able to testify.
Exactly.
And that's a barrier as well.
That's, and there is, again, as you go through this and down the road, and I mean, we talked about the evidence gathering, but things that you would like to see to help the senior citizens and elderly that, boy, if I had the money, I'd do this.
Oh my gosh, where do we start? I think first and foremost, personally, what I would like to see is more APS staff and more awareness so that we can start to meet those needs even more than what we're doing. Because I think that's really where it all kind of starts. I don't know what you're...
And along with the awareness piece, and this doesn't even cost any money, this is something that people can do right now, is take care of your elderly parents. Keep an eye on your neighbor. If you see someone that you think may need a hand,
Good point.
If you're going to the grocery store, stop by and ask Betty next door if there's anything that she might need from the store. If someone needs maybe some help with housekeeping, either assist them or help them get set up with some services. Just be aware of your surroundings and aware of the people that live nearby.
Always keep in contact with your grandmother and grandfather,
Yeah.
see how they're doing and
Yeah.
all those things. It amazes me that there's, I know this happens all the time, but this drug problem it's killing us. I mean, it's just
I know.
absolutely killing us.
Yeah.
Well, we do appreciate you two coming in and
Thank you.
talking about, one more time, website, phone numbers, because you guys work 24 hours, I know you do. You work 24 hours a day, so.
Yes, and actually, we do have the means to get calls after hours and on weekends. We do have a staff person on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, between APS and CPS. And so for emergencies after hours and on weekends, if someone wants to report, they can contact the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. And that number is 740-652-7900, and they can ask to speak with the on-call worker.
Okay.
As far as business hours, of course, you can reach our agency at 740-652-7887, and that will get you to our receptionist. And if you want to make a referral, they can send you to our screening unit. We have a unit specifically for taking those calls and entering those reports, and they're going to ask you some questions. And then once they're finished with that, the report gets sent on for APS to me to make a decision and send it along to one of the workers.
Are there any open houses coming up? People might want to just come down to the building and go through, or should make an appointment, or is that?
They can make an appointment with us by calling that same number, the 740-652-7887, and we're always glad to talk to anyone, really. But we're not always there.
Yeah,
so I think
you're-
that's part of the, these guys are in and out. I'm in and out myself,
Right.
and so it would probably be best to go ahead and call just so we can make sure that we're there to meet the need.
Remember the first time you went out on a call?
I do. It was a self-neglect case. It was back in 2005, I believe. It was actually what we consider a success because the woman did have family who was concerned about her. And so we were able to enlist the help of the family members. The niece became her guardian, and she eventually went to an assisted living facility where all of her needs were met, and she was safe and happy.
Super. Mindy, remember the first time you went out?
Yes, mine was in CPS though, so that's where I started several years ago, and I don't want to say it was not a success. It turned out to be, but when we got there, it wasn't a very good situation, and so I ended up actually having to do a removal of a child. But later on, some things were remedied and the child was reunited. So that did turn out to be a good story, but.
Well, fantastic. Well, again, we appreciate Mindy VanBibber coming in and Janet
Thank you.
Stout from Adult Protective Services and all this stuff. And I've been in that building. I know how much you guys work, and we appreciate everything you do. And
Thank
let's see if we can go from 50 up to, in the top 10 anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
great.
great.
As far as funding.
Yes,
We're also,
yes.
throughout the month of June, on our Facebook page and Twitter, we're tweeting and posting facts about elder abuse awareness daily. So
Okay.
we encourage people to check that out too.
Okay.
Yes, and like us on Facebook.
Fantastic. We'll do it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.